as we welcome our today's speaker, CA Ankit Sarvaiya, who has been an All India ranker 37 of his time. He has been a mentor to most of the students. He's been mentoring from years now. He has been an ex PwC, ex EY. Also, he's been a successful entrepreneur now, and obviously, he has his own fundas where he makes sure that studies are being easier and fun at the same time. And I'm pretty sure that this webinar is going to be a beautiful masterclass for all of you. So, guys, the stage is all over to our speaker, Ankit sir. Welcome to the webinar. Very good morning. Good to
Good
see.
morning.
Yes,
Am I audible?
yes, very clear.
So, Sunday morning and audit. What an irony. हफ्ते में और anyways do audit and you'll be like, sir, अभी Sunday को भी audit करना पड़ेगा. Tension not. This is not about ratifying that audit. We'll, in this course of this masterclass, try to understand कि audit को रटना नहीं है, उसको समझना है. तो वो समझने का mindset कहाँ से लाना है? That is the entire thing that we are going to dwell around in this masterclass. And obviously, from an exam point of view, how our answer will be, like I always say, complete in all respects. Complete मतलब मॉड्यूल में जो लेंथ है वो लेंथ के हिसाब से नहीं. Complete means covering all the possible aspects which might have come across in the case that has been presented to you in the question. जिसका hint है towards none other than interlinking. कि उसी पे तुम्हारा लिंक बिटवीन सीए स्टूडेंट एंड सीए चलता है. Fair enough? Understood? Are you all there with me? You can show it to me that you all are there and understanding with the use of the emoticons that are there down. Clear? सबसे पहले, this is the subject of advanced auditing. मतलब it's not just basic audit, it is advanced auditing. We have to link, we have to do XYZ things in the answer. हमारे ethics आ जाते हैं, हमारे companies आ जाते हैं, हमारा type of audit आ जाता है. But what I have seen over the years is that students end up making a basic mistake in understanding what is the type of audit on which the question is based. कितने लोगों से ये गलती हो जाती है कि कभी कभी स्टैट ऑडिट की जगह पर इंटरनल ऑडिट का आंसर लिख के आ जाता है और यू डोंट इवन अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज द नेचर ऑफ द ऑडिटर इन द क्वेश्चन. हैज एनीवन टिल डेट फेस्ड दैट इशू? I have seen that happen with a lot of students. There's a basic difference even between a practitioner and an auditor. And auditor, there are 1,000 types of auditors. There's a stat auditor, there's a tax auditor, there's an internal auditor, there's a forensic auditor, forensic audits hota hai, there is an environmental audit jo hota hai. XYZ types of auditors are there for XYZ purposes. So if I don't understand the crux of what is the nature of audit in the question, how will I be able to write the correct answer in all respects? So, थोड़ी चीजें play that unless specified otherwise. ऐसा कुछ शब्द सुना सुना लग रहा है, unless specified otherwise and notwithstanding ऐसा कुछ. Is everyone awake or has gone to sleep? Chat box you all can use, emoticons you all can use. डरो मत, मारूंगा नहीं आके. So, unless specified otherwise, by default, you are always the statutory auditor of the company. अगर क्वेश्चन कुछ बोलता नहीं है तो हम कौन से ऑडिटर समझेंगे खुद को? स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर. आर वी क्लियर विथ दैट? गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? सो ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, जब तुम स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर हो तब तुम्हारे साथ फ्री में क्या क्या चिपकेगा? स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर को सबसे पहले क्या चिपकेगा? स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑन ऑडिटिंग. स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑन ऑडिटिंग चिपका, मतलब उसको रिपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट्स भी चिपका. अभी व्हेन वी से रिपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट्स, उसमें क्या क्या आता है? कारो, ऑडिट रिपोर्ट एंड सेक्शन 143. समझा कि नहीं समझा? ऐसा कुछ आता है कि नहीं आता है? कारो आता है, ऑडिट रिपोर्ट आता है, 143 आता है, एट टाइम्स इवन हैव की ऑडिट मैटर्स, एक्स वाई जेड, बहुत सारी चीजें आती है, राइट? अगर कारो और ऑडिट रिपोर्ट और सेक्शन 143 आया तो साथ में क्या आ जाता है उसके? कंपनीज एक्ट, राइट? कंपनीज एक्ट आ गया, सा आ गए. तुमने कुछ एज एन ऑडिटर गलत कर दिया, और तुमने घूस खाई, या तुमने कुछ गलत कदम उठा लिया ताकि भाई एंड ऑफ द डे देखो फीस तो मैनेजमेंट से आती है, तो उनके अगेंस्ट जाएंगे तो अपनी फीस का लोचा होगा, इज व्हाट अ प्रैक्टिकल पर्सन विल. Whereas your audit normally says that you are working for the shareholders, you're not working for the management. But we go in the emotion of things and we say कि नहीं चलता है. That चलता है is going to screw your answer. अगर कुछ भी गलत हुआ तो what is under question? Integrity, competence, due diligence, नॉन डॉक्यूमेंटेशन. घाय घाय में ऑडिट कंप्लीट करना है, सो वी फॉरगेट टू डू डॉक्यूमेंटेशन. दिस इज व्हाट वी डू प्रैक्टिकली. बट उसमें बैंड किसकी बचती है? हमारी. हम वही प्रैक्टिकल चीज आकर पेपर में लिख देते हैं, which again screws up our marks because that is against what the standards have ideally told us. That is a violation of what we call our professional ethics. So this is how ideally स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिट के साथ ये चीज चिपक जाएगी. समझा कि नहीं समझा? तुम कोई कोई चीजों में स्किल्ड नहीं रहोगे. यू विल पिक अप द वर्क ऑफ ऑडिटर्स एक्सपर्ट, यू विल पिक अप द वर्क ऑफ मैनेजमेंट एक्सपर्ट, यू विल हैव टू प्लेस रिलायंस ऑन देयर इंफॉर्मेशन. अ कंपनी हैज डिफॉल्टेड इन पेमेंट ऑफ लोन, 143(12) में कारो रिपोर्टिंग आ जाएगा. अगर फाइनेंशियल डिस्ट्रेस है कंपनी में तो उसके गोइंग कंसर्न पर सवाल आ जाएगा. गोइंग कंसर्न पर सवाल आ जाएगा तो 705 आएगा कि नहीं, इन एडिशन टू 570. यस और हाँ या ना? राइट. So your mind should open, your brain should be open when you're tackling all these things, and all of these things come in when it is stat audit. दूसरा टाइप ऑफ ऑडिटर कौन सा हो जाता है? टैक्स ऑडिटर. टैक्स ऑडिटर कौन सा ऑडिटर होगा हमारा? ऑडिटर अंडर 44AB, इनकम टैक्स एक्ट. हमारा इनकम टैक्स एक्ट ऑडिटर या जीएसटी ऑडिटर, समथिंग लाइक दैट आएगा. 3CD, 3CA, 3CEB, ऑल ऑफ दैट. देयर यू डोंट हैव टू डू एनीथिंग विद योर स्टैट ऑडिट. स्टैट ऑडिट से उसका कुछ लिंकेज नहीं है. यहाँ पर अगर याद रखोगे तो 269 SS, 269 T ऐसा कुछ आता है दिमाग में, या सेक्शंस ऑफ रिपोर्टिंग कैश ट्रांजैक्शन एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. दिस इज वेयर इट गेट्स कवर्ड. थर्ड आता है तुम्हारा इंटरनल ऑडिट. इंटरनल ऑडिट की अगर मैं बात करूं तो इंटरनल ऑडिटर के साथ क्या क्या चिपकता है साथ में? You all can tell me in your chat box what you all think will come when an internal auditor related question is asked in the exam. What all can you possibly think to be a part of your question? बोलो, बताओ, टेल. हो गए? टाइप कर सकते हो. सा 610 करेक्ट. बट सा 610 चेक करेगा कौन? स्टैट ऑडिटर या इंटरनल ऑडिटर? स्नेहल, stat auditor. So I am asking, what if you are an internal auditor and the question is framed on internal audit? तो क्या क्या आ जाएगा? पहली बात तो यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड इंटरनल ऑडिट के लिए तुम अपॉइंट हुए क्यों. व्हाट इज द इंटेंट ऑफ एन इंटरनल ऑडिटर? इज टू चेक द एफिशिएंसी एंड इफेक्टिवनेस ऑफ द इंटरनल कंट्रोल्स. राइट. मेन तो इफिशिएंसी एंड इफेक्टिवनेस पे उसको चेक करना है. अभी उसने उसका काम बराबर से किया है कि नहीं वो चेक कौन करेगा. एंड यस, लाइक अनिल से रिपोर्टिंग ऑन द डेफिशिएंसी इन द इंटरनल कंट्रोल सिस्टम. करेक्ट. दैट इज द वर्क ऑफ एन इंटरनल ऑडिटर. उसका काम चेक करके फाइनेंशियल के ऊपर रिपोर्ट देगा कौन? स्टैट ऑडिटर. So when the question asks reporting by a stat auditor on the work done by an internal auditor, that is when SAR 6110 will come into picture. That is when your IFC testing report will come into picture. हाँ ना, whether the internal controls are working effectively and efficiently or not, or whether there is any loophole. ये चीज पे रिपोर्ट कब होगा? जब स्टैट ऑडिटर से बोला जाए. पर अगर तुम बेसिक इंटरनल ऑडिट में हो and the question is on basic internal audit, then SAR 610 will ideally not come in. Reporting on that part will not come in. It will only be an internal auditor's report to the management. Clear? हाँ या ना? अभी हर कंपनी में कुछ ना कुछ एक झोल तो होता ही है, like we all know. That is known as frauds. Frauds के लिए कौन आएगा? Forensic auditor. अभी कोई बोलेगा कि सर what do stat auditors do then? Stat auditors attempt to find fraud during the audit of financial information. Can they be held at gunpoint to say that as a stat auditor you have failed to detect a fraud if it has been planned very beautifully by the management कि stat auditor के नजर में ही ना आए? Can the stat auditor be held at gunpoint that you didn't report a fraud? No, because it was planned effectively. But forensic auditor का काम क्या है? He is an investigator जिसका काम ही है जाके ढूंढना कि फ्रॉड हुआ है कि नहीं कंपनी में, और हुआ है तो कहाँ हुआ है. So as a stat auditor, if the question is stat audit based, will you place reliance on the audit performed by a forensic auditor? Yes. फिर उसके रिपोर्ट के बेसिस पे you will give your answer. But what if a forensic auditor has not only been appointed? Then as a stat auditor, you will try your best to find out. You can't be held responsible if you are still unable to find it. तो अभी इसमें एक चीज बताओ, if you as a stat auditor have not been able to find a fraud on the company, can you be held liable under professional ethics for not showing due diligence while performance of your functions? हाँ या ना? Why I'm taking up all these things? Because these are things where students normally make mistakes. वरना mistakes होती नहीं है. इन्हीं छोटी 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 चीजों में मिस्टेक होती है. एंड अनफॉर्चुनेटली इन्हीं छोटी 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 चीजों के ऊपर पेपर बनता है. So will you still be held responsible? No. समझा? And the last part is, the last type of audit which is majorly in your syllabus is environmental audit. Like if you are a factory who is emitting gases into the atmosphere, then are you taking sufficient and appropriate measures to ensure that you are returning back to the environment or restoring back the environment that was handed over to you by nature itself? In case there is no minimum efforts put, then responsible, otherwise no due to correct. Like I said, अगर तुमने कोशिश की, you tried to do it but still could not find it because it was planned, you won't be held responsible, and even under professional ethics. But if you showed lack of due diligence, अरे यार मेरा दिमाग में याद ही नहीं आया कि मुझे ये भी चेक करना था, ऐसा हुआ है ऑडिट में, तो then that is going to hold you liable because you failed to show due diligence. समझा? Coming back to environmental audit, अगर तुमने gases release किए हैं in the atmosphere and that gas has resulted into deterioration of environment, global warming, बहुत कुछ हो रहा है आजकल. तो roads are being constructed in Bombay and in other parts of the city or in other states in India where pollution is happening. If you are not taking enough steps to try to restore the environment to what it was, then it's a problem. उसकी वजह से तुम्हारे बहुत सारे लाइसेंसेस कैंसिल हो सकते for doing your business. That again will raise a question in the minds of a statutory auditor regarding your going concern, and hence he will also consider effect on 705-706. So what I was trying to do through this was tell कि हम by default हमेशा यही होंगे. अगर इनमें से किसी में आए और हमारा काम एक स्टैट ऑडिटर को चेक करना है, ऐसा क्वेश्चन ने बोला है, then we even need to know what has to be done by these respective auditors, because eventually at the end a stat auditor is going to check our work and report on financial statements. So we will have to always think from the point of view of a statutory auditor in our mind, unless question specifically states that discuss what would the internal auditor do in this case, but discuss what would the forensic auditor do. बट क्या आईसीआई कभी ऐसा कुछ लिखता है या वो सिर्फ इतना लिखता है? डिस्कस, एडवाइस, कमेंट. इसके आगे डज आईसीआई राइट एनीथिंग? नो. Then you are expected to understand all the parties involved, all the nature of transaction involved, and try to link them and give an answer. Clear or not clear? Any doubts, duvida, dard, shanka, pida, kasht? I think only Kiran is the only one active. Kiran, Alin Kumari and Manjut. बाकी सब सो गए. So, like I said, what do you need to do? You first need to understand the ask of the question. मांगना क्या चाहते हो पंडित जी हमसे? Examine the nature of auditor in the question, कि कौन से auditor के basis पे मुझे आंसर देना है. And the third is check for interlinking of provisions. And interlinking of provisions, that is nothing but your SA plus Companies Act plus professional ethics. क्योंकि if you see, this is nothing but the major chunk of your syllabus. बाकी क्या क्या है? बैंक ऑडिट से, पब्लिक सेक्टर अंडरटेकिंग ऑडिट से. दोज आर ऑल डायरेक्ट चैप्टर्स जहाँ पे यू हैव टू गिव डायरेक्ट आंसर. वहां पर तुमको बोलेगा नहीं कि यू हैव बीन अपॉइंटेड एज द ऑडिटर ऑफ ए लिमिटेड व्हिच इज अ पब्लिक सेक्टर अंडरटेकिंग एंड इट हैज अपॉइंटेड अ स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर. Statutory auditor is reviewing the work of an internal auditor. That internal auditor has done some locha in their work, and statutory auditor forgot to find out the locha done by the internal auditor. ऐसा ये पब्लिक सेक्टर अंडरटेकिंग लिख के स्पेसिफिकली नहीं पूछेंगे. इट कैन बी एनी कंपनी. अगर पीएसयू या बैंक से पूछना या एनबीएफसी से पूछना, दे विल बी लाइक व्हाट आर द फ्रॉड्स कमिटेड बाय एन एनबीएफसी, व्हाट आर द रेशियोज दैट डिटरमाइन द फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी ऑफ अ बैंक, एंड हाउ डू यू असेस दोस पैरामीटर्स. ऐसा कुछ है? एसएलआर, एनपीए, ये सब कुछ है नहीं है. सुना है, सुना सुना लग रहा है, सुना सुना लग रहा है कि कुछ लग ही नहीं रहा है. राइट. So you need to interlink the provision appropriately to what is asked. Clear? और उसके लिए हमारा क्या होना चाहिए? ब्रेन ओपन होना चाहिए. हम बहुत बार ऑडिट के पेपर के टाइम पे मेंटली क्लोज कर देते हैं हमारा ब्रेन कि भाई इतना ही हुआ, इतना ही आता है. नो, you need to keep your brains open to realize that what could possibly also be interlinked. और वो कैसे पता चलेगा? when you'll read the question properly. समझा कि नहीं समझा? पक्का? Now, like I discussed on top, your part of professional ethics, which will also come and somewhere affect your SAS also as a stat auditor. Integrity, objectivity, professional compliances, competence and due care. Then you have your confidentiality, then your professional behavior. कार्ड छाप के तुम सीए और एलएलबी दोनों नहीं लिख सकते. तुम नहीं लिख सकते सीए अंकित सरवैया लॉयर. No, you can write your name as Ankit Sarvaiya CA/LLB to show that these are the degrees you have. But you cannot say CA Ankit Sarvaiya, CA LLB Ankit Sarvaiya. You can't do that because it is misconduct both for the Bar Council as well as for the CA Act, because you can't practice more than one profession at the same time. You can have degrees, you could have had qualifications. Those can be written like how I normally write it in a bracket over here. If I'm saying I'm CA Ankit Sarvaiya, I cannot say CA LLB Ankit Sarvaiya. I can ideally just say Ankit Sarvaiya, I am an ACA, I am an LLB, I am a graduate and I have cleared this exam. यहाँ पर CA LLB C1 अंकित सर्वैया नहीं लिख सकता. इतना समझा? ये तुम्हारे कोड ऑफ एथिक्स के पार्ट में आ जाता है रिगार्डिंग क्वालिफिकेशंस एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. दिस वाज अ वेरी स्मॉल एग्जांपल दैट आई टुक ऑफ माय ओन केस. Where would I be liable under any misconduct? Integrity, objectivity, professional competence, due care, confidentiality, ये तुम्हारे if I'm not wrong साथ 200 के साथ फ्री में आ जाते हैं. SQC1 के साथ फ्री में आ जाते हैं. साथ 220 के साथ फ्री में आ जाते हैं. राइट और रॉन्ग? तो अगर इनके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आया एथिक्स का भी पार्ट है और तुम स्टैट ऑडिटर हो अनफॉर्चुनेटली इन दैट क्वेश्चन, कैन यू राइट इवन अ SAR 200 रिलेटिंग पॉइंट, SQC1 related point? Yes. You have to understand what is the ask of the question. अगर क्वेश्चन बोलता है डिस्कस इन लाइट ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स एक्ट 1949, सीधी बात है, इट्स नॉट आस्किंग यू एनीथिंग अबाउट स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑन ऑडिटिंग, इट इज अ क्वेश्चन ऑन प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स, सो यू हैव टू आंसर फ्रॉम प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स पॉइंट ऑफ. अगर क्वेश्चन बोलता है डिस्कस तो साबी आएगा, प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स भी आएगा, 705 706 भी आ सकता है. You could have even brought misconduct or disrepute to the ICAI by not behaving in an not behaving with integrity, not having objectivity, not maintaining proper documents. Clear? इतना समझा? सुबह की नींद उड़ गई कि नींद आ गई? Have you started feeling sleepy or has your sleep gone away now with all these भाषण? लिख सकते, you all can type. I'm assuming since you all are typing, not typing and giving reactions, your need is anyway still gone. Clear? Now, let's see some normally exam testable questions. For this, I will need your mics to be on, or you all can just raise your hand, and then I'll call out the name of that person who has raised the hand to answer a particular question. Okay? Your first question that I've picked up is auditor has failed to document the basis of some materiality calculation while doing its audit. सीधी बात है, materiality आएगा तो here it is what type of auditor? Statutory auditor. So what are the possible things that come to your mind when you are writing an answer on this particular part? Any volunteers? ये question ही नहीं समझा. Yes, Arundhati, you can unmute yourself and give the answer. तुमको क्या लग रहा है इसमें क्या क्या आएगा?
Sir, there would be okay. So first would be the standard, which would be 230, which talks about audit documentation, non-compliance.
Correct.
Then it would also be negligence. So there is not proper professional, due diligence done.
Correct.
And then this would also affect the quality of the audit. So potentially SA 200 and SQC1 could be mentioned.
Okay.
Depending, I think, yes, that's what I inferred, because there is you can talk about the checklist and
Will
how.
320 come into picture, the materiality standard itself?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry.
That will also come, because ये तो materiality की बात हो रही है. तो materiality पे तो सवाल सबसे पहले आएगा कि भाई तुमने उसी स्टैंडर्ड को फॉलो नहीं किया. ये सब तो बाजू वाले हैं.
Yeah.
मेन एड्रेस इसका है. I think I lost your network somewhere, Arundhati.
No, yes, sir. 320 is more important. I think that, so you start with 320, right? And then you go on to 230.
So document materiality calculation, this would be under 320. Non-compliance with SAR 230, like you said. Basis for conclusion might also change in your audit report, because in your audit report, if you see the format is basis for opinion, which an auditor has to write.
Yes, sir.
So वो basis
Yes,
of opinion भी change हो जाएगा, because if you have not documented materiality itself, how can any person who is the reader of that financial statement rely on your basis of opinion? That itself is a problem. मतलब इसके साथ क्या आ जाएगा, which 99% students miss, 705.
Yes, sir. Okay.
And all significant findings that were a part of that. So this is nothing but your key audit matters, CAM, which is 706 if I'm not wrong. 706 and 720 भी आ सकता है. Right.
Okay.
And the
Yes,
last
sir.
is, like you said, misconduct under code of ethics. So यहाँ पर you have brought disrepute to the ICAI.
Right, sir.
So
Thank you.
all of this can be invoked. अभी जरूरी है हमको जो क्वेश्चन है उसमें सब लिखना है नहीं, वो डिपेंड करता है ऑन द फैक्ट्स व्हिच आर गिवन टू अस इन द क्वेश्चन. बट आवर माइंड शुड बी ओपन कि भाई ये आ सकते हैं इसके. अंडरस्टूड?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now let's go to the second question. Client's revenue has increased by 30% without any increase in production. If you are evaluating it as a statutory auditor, so what could the possible things happen? Any volunteers? There's only Arundhati who's the volunteer. Price increase is one reason, but is price increase always a justifiable reason? No. So you have your 315 and 330 which could come in risk of material misstatement on account of frauds or error. अभी रिस्क ऑफ मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट ड्यू टू फ्रॉड एंड एरर आया तो क्या क्या आ जाएगा? 240 चिपकेगा, 240 के साथ कारो रिपोर्टिंग चिपकेगा, ऑडिटर रिपोर्टिंग अंडर 143.12 चिपकेगा, राइट? 315 330 तो इट्स बाय वन गेट वन. 315 आया तो 330 आना ही है. You have 315, you have 330, you have SAR 240, you have 705, 706 which might come into picture because you might have to consider the effect of modification of opinion as per SAR and कारो रिपोर्टिंग. ये 5 चीजें आ सकती है. क्लियर? क्या यहाँ पर ऑडिटर विल बी हेल्ड लायबल अंडर प्रोफेशनल मिसकंडक्ट? नो, नॉट नेसेसरीली. अगर उसने ये सब किया ही नहीं, ड्यू डिलिजेंस दिखाना है, तो देन दैट्स अ सेपरेट थिंग. Otherwise, normally a question where revenue has increased without corresponding increase in production will not ideally attract the professional ethics law. समझा? Now, third question which normally comes in your exam, auditor relies on third party confirmation for receivables without verification. तो क्या क्या आएगा? Jyoti has raised hand. Jyoti, you can unmute and answer.
सर इसमें ऐसे 200 का आ सकता है
Okay,
एंड 505 एक्सटर्नल कंफर्मेशन
correct,
एंड एक 500 दैट इज ऑडिट
मतलब
एविडेंस
correct,
एंड प्रोफेशनल एसक्यूसी 1 भी लग सकता है, हमने कंप्लाई नहीं किया फर्म की पॉलिसीज के साथ.
correct.
एंड कोई मिसकंडक्ट हो सकता है, ग्रॉस नेग्लिजेंस, जैसे कि
You
क्लॉज
have your 500, you
7.
have 505, you have professional
Yes.
misconduct for gross negligence of duties.
Yes, sir.
Like we also have a question that auditor could not attend the stock count on the year-end date, and hence no report was available. Hence the auditor relied on inventory given by management. Is the approach correct? नहीं, वहाँ पर
Wrong,
भी he
sir.
would have to perform rollback procedures, go at some subsequent day to do stock count to check whether the inventory physically exists.
Yes.
तो वो सब चीजें आ जाती है. क्लियर? आई थिंक तुम लोग को अभी थोड़ा हैंग आने लग गया कि क्या क्या लिखना है आंसर में. अभी इसमें ये मत करना कि तुम भावनाओं में बह जाओ और फिर यही लिखो. यू नीड टू कट वेयर यू हैव टू फिनिश द सेंटेंस. 505, 501, 570 सब एक साथ आया तो उसमें पूरा का पूरा वी डोंट हैव टू डू PhD. we'll have to just write relevant extracts and then link it and finish the answer, because otherwise we'll not be able to finish the paper. Clear? Now the fourth point, company defaults on bank loan repayment. Yes, I think in the beginning only I discussed it. Company ने default किया in bank loan. So what, who would like to volunteer to answer this? कि क्या क्या दिमाग में आ रहे हैं उनके जब ये बात आती है तब? Yes, Jyoti.
सर कारो की रिपोर्टिंग होगी एंड सेक्शन 143 ऑफ कंपनीज एक्ट.
Correct. That is auditor's
And-
duties वाला पूरा section.
हाँ,
143.
और
Correct.
705 हाँ रिपोर्टिंग का सेक्शन.
But 705 आने के पहले और कुछ आना चाहिए कि नहीं आना चाहिए?
की ऑडिट मैटर्स.
वो तो 706 या 720, मतलब before reaching 700 series to comment whether I need to do my Modification of opinion, it as a key audit matter, कुछ तो होना
Going
चाहिए ना.
concern, maybe going concern sir, अगर वो पे नहीं कर पा रहे अपनी liabilities,
Is the company under any financial distress because of which it is
financial
not able
crisis.
to pay?
Yes.
In bank loan defaults, Nehal, I don't normally think कि 240 आएगा. That normally would not come in a bank loan default because मेरे पास पैसा नहीं था इसलिए मैं दे नहीं पाया. So that is what the normal situation is. But when it's a very complicated planned scenario कि भाई तुम अपनी salaries as directors, CFOs ले रहे हो अपनी बराबर से salary और बैंक का लोन repay नहीं करे, then there might be a question on lifting the corporate wheel of the company जिसकी वजह से the fraud could have been done by management. So that is when the facts अगर ऐसे हो ना question में तो you can even write a 240. वरना normally 240 invoke होने के chances बहुत कम है in such question. Correct? Non-compliance under CARO. Auditors report reflect financial stress, going concern. This is 570, not 500. Sa 570 and sa 705, 706. समझा? And ICI का all-time favorite question. Auditor detects fraudulent financial statement. How many of the students over here know कि इसमें क्या क्या लिखना है, कि इसमें PhD करके लिखना है? How many of y'all are sure कि भाई इसमें तो मुझे ये लिखना है, ये लिखना है, ये लिखना है, ये लिखना है? Any volunteers for this answer? 240, 540, 315, 330 और क्या क्या आएगा? 240, 315, 330, 540, CARO, 705, 143, 12. But what if management has created pressure on you to still sign the audited financial statement? So resign from engagement या withdraw from engagement, वो भी एक स्टैंडर्ड आ सकता है. या तो क्लाइंट ने तुमको सफिशिएंट एंड अप्रोप्रिएट ऑडिट एविडेंस ही नहीं दिया तो क्या करोगे? तो उनसे क्या लोगे तुम? WR में भी लिखवा के लोगे ना कि तुमने दिया नहीं है हमको. डिस्क्लेमर ऑफ ओपिनियन यस 705 आएगा, बट रिटर्न रिप्रेजेंटेशन भी आएगा. एंड रिटर्न रिप्रेजेंटेशन इज जस्ट फॉर यू टू एज एन ऑडिटर सेफगार्ड योरसेल्फ कि भाई मैंने मांगा मुझे मिला नहीं. But if the financials itself are fraudulent, you should first inquire with management the reason of the fraud. CG में रिपोर्टिंग करना है तुमको, वो तुमने अगर बराबर से टाइम पे नहीं किया तो then even professional ethics आएगा because you have brought disrepute to ICAI by not reporting something which you should have ideally reported. Right or not right? 143.12 का रिपोर्टिंग नहीं किया, क्यों नहीं किया? Because you didn't exercise due diligence. So you have to be clear कि by the end of everything, you have to also think कि भाई am I bringing any disrepute to ICAI? Whether I'm doing professional misconduct, other misconduct or whatever. तो वो एक चीज हमेशा at the back of your mind होना चाहिए. Clear? So now what all are the common mistakes which you could avoid? इनमें से एक तो मेरे को अभी मिली थी थोड़े टाइम पहले. स्नेहल had done that mistake. उसने बेचारे ने कोई तो 240 चिपका दिया था, एंड विच आई टोल्ड कि नॉर्मली ये केस में बैंक लोन डिफॉल्ट, रीपेमेंट डिफॉल्ट में आइडियली 240 नहीं आता. तो the common mistake students do is they mix up the SI and write something extra which could possibly not have been a part of the case. स्नेहल मुझे मारना मत पकड़ के, आई एम जस्ट टेकिंग एन एग्जांपल ऑफ योर नेम, ताकि एटलीस्ट यू विल आल्सो रियलाइज कि भाई हर जगह पर हर चीज नहीं चिपक सकती, क्योंकि हर जगह पे हर चीज चिपकाओगे तो ICAI तुम्हारा भी नाम और रोल नंबर हर अटेम्प्ट में चिपकाएगा, वापस आइए वापस आइए वापस आइए, एंड वी डोंट वांट दैट. क्लियर? देन लाइक आई सेड इन द लास्ट थिंग, बैक ऑफ द माइंड हम हर आंसर में मोस्टली प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स का इम्पैक्ट भूल जाते हैं, सो वी इग्नोर आउट द प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स. एंड थर्ड एंड मोस्ट क्रूशियल पार्ट इज योर प्रेजेंटेशन. इफ योर प्रेजेंटेशन इज वीक, when I say weak, what do I mean? What should be the ideal presentation is what I'll explain to you over here. पहले तो identify the issue. इसको हम लोग हमेशा क्या बोलते हैं? Facts of the case. So write down the facts of the case. Then identify the relevant standards on auditing or company law provisions or clause of professional ethics which are getting invoked in this particular question. So when you write that down, you are writing as per SA 315, as per section 143(12) of Companies Act, as per clause 2 of part 1 of first schedule to CA Act. You will write what the bare act or the bare provision is stating. Then you will link it to this particular question, how this has affected the question under picture. As per SA 315 तुमने ऊपर लिख दिया है. In the given case, CAA has done this, which is a clear violation of section of SA 315. Auditor has failed to report under section 143(12). Auditor should have followed the procedure specified in 143(12), which required them to send it by registered post, but they sent it by courier without any registered post. So this is a mistake which has happened on his part. टेक्निकलिटी ऐसा कुछ आता है ना, विद इन अ पीरियड ऑफ 45 days by registered post, registered to the ministry of, addressed to the ministry of corporate affairs. ऐसा कुछ है कि नहीं है 143(12) में? if the fraud amount is more than 1 crore. कुछ याद आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा है? It's been a decade since I have studied this और मुझे याद है. तुम लोग को याद होना चाहिए ideally. And then at the end, what do you have to do? You either have to formulate the audit opinion that the audit opinion is this or that, or whatever the question has asked, or which is nothing but provide a clear conclusion कि करना क्या है, whether there is misconduct, whether there is no misconduct, whether auditor has to modify opinion. If yes, then what is the opinion that he should give? X, Y, Z. समझा कि नहीं समझा अब तक? Right or right? पक्का? So, if I have to summarize whatever we have discussed in this webinar, तुमने एक चीज क्या सीखा कि भाई सा एंड एथिक्स को मास्टर करना पड़ेगा. बट व्हेन यू मास्टर इट, डज इट मीन रट्टा मारना है कि उसको समझना है? अगर तुम रट्टोफाई करोगे तो तुम्हारे साथ यही होना है. फिर यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू इंटरलिंक. योर ब्रेन वुड बिकम मेंटली शट कि इस आंसर में यही आना है. फिर भले ही वो उस क्वेश्चन में इन्वोक ना हो, तुम लिख के आ जाओ, which will again end up causing loss of marks. So try to understand the crux of it. Yes, when you are understanding the crux of it, it cannot be like auditor should have got evidence from management, but management didn't give evidence. No. You even need to write specific verbatums of check. Like, अभी verbatums का क्या मतलब? What is the full form of this?
Sufficient and appropriate audit evidence.
Correct. What is this? Applicable FRF. इसका क्या मतलब
Financial
होता है?
reporting framework.
The financial statements in all material respects should be free from errors. ऐसा कुछ सुना है कि नहीं सुना है? These all are technical words of the standards जो तुमको लिखने पड़ेंगे when सा इन्वोक हो जाएगा. सा के साथ दूसरा एक और चीज आता है इन योर सिलेबस, SRS, SREs and SAEs. इनका फुल फॉर्म क्या है, कोई मुझे बता सकता है? SRS, SRE and SAE. Free from material misstatement due to fraud and error. Correct, Snehal. Can anyone tell me the meaning of SRS?
So standard of related services, standard on
Correct.
related revenue, what we say?
Revenue engagement? हाँ
No,
भाई,
review
मतलब रेवेन्यू
engagements
तो
and
115 है, FR है भाई. यहाँ
हाँ,
पर रेवेन्यू मत लेके आओ, यहाँ पर रेवेन्यू को ऑडिट करो बस.
standard on assurance engagement, SAE.
Correct. When you are doing SREs, are you giving an opinion or are you just reviewing?
Conclusion देते हैं, opinion नहीं देते हैं.
करेक्ट, मतलब जो तुमने देखा उसके बेस पे कंक्लूजन ये है. हम ये नहीं बोल रहे कि ये राइट है रॉन्ग है, हम तुमको कोई टिप्पणी नहीं देंगे, हम खाली आंसर देंगे, कंक्लूजन. एज एन ऑडिटर आई विल नॉट गिव टिप्पणी. व्हेन आई से टिप्पणी इट मींस ओपिनियन. आई विल नॉट गिव एनी ओपिनियन भाई तुमको ये करना चाहिए नहीं करना चाहिए. हमने देखा ये है, close. When you are in SEs, what is the approach that you hold? Are you giving an opinion again over here, or are you giving a review conclusion, or are you giving just, we have just seen forecasted information and in our opinion it looks proper? Proper नहीं, true and fair ideally, not proper.
सर assurance engagement है, इसमें opinion दी जाती है ऐसे.
करेक्ट. इधर मैं ये नहीं बोलूंगा कि तुमको ये करना है. इट इज लिमिटेड assurance. That is the work that I was looking for. Because if you just write assurance, वो तो तुम सामने भी देते ही हो ना. You are giving a limited assurance कि जितना हमने चेक किया उतने पे हम बोल रहे हैं भाई, पूरे फाइनेंशियल्स पे नहीं. क्लियर. एंड SRS में रिलेटेड सर्विसेज, उसमें तुम क्या करते हो? What is the approach that you hold when you are doing an SRS engagement? कि कोई कुछ कहना चाहेगा? अचानक इतना सन्नाटा क्यों है भाई? और
सर assist करते हैं मैनेजमेंट को टू कंप्लाई फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट एज पर द FRF, applicable FRF.
Correct. So what is the example that I can take of this situation? A company wants to come up with an IPO. So with SEBI, you need to file your 5 years ka data of your financial information which is comparable. हो सकता है that 3 साल पहले हम AS में थे और अभी हम Ind AS में आए हुए हैं, तो हमारी बुक्स अलग हो सकती है. Over the period of 5 years, yes, it could have happened if I would have transitioned, say, from an AS to an Ind AS. But for the purpose of this IPO, my FRF, which is there for 5 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, should it be as different gaps, or it should be as per comparable gap, which is applicable to my company? Comparable gap. So such type of engagements or assignments that an auditor is needed to assist management to make sure that the financial statements are as per applicable gap for all the comparable years which are asked for, is known as an SRS. यहाँ पर क्या तुम ओपिनियन देते हो, कंक्लूजन देते हो, कि कुछ नहीं देते हो? तुम उनको खाली बनाने में हेल्प करते हो. What do you think is the answer to this? You give nothing. Clear? So if it is SRS, there is nothing, you are just assisting. If it is SAEs, there is limited assurance. And if there is SREs, then there is a conclusion. समझा कि नहीं समझा? कोई डाउट, दुविधा, दर्द, शंका, पीड़ा, कष्ट, प्रॉब्लम? क्लियर? इसी के साथ we come to the end of this webinar and wrap it. But उसके पहले एक जो most important चीज है is to structure your answer. When I say structure your answer, like I said, पूरा का पूरा PhD करके नहीं आना है. You have to be clear in your thoughts कि क्या invoke हुआ है उतना ही लिखना है. You have to be concise. You cannot end up writing 4, 5 pages for a 4-marker question. You will have to cut short and write whatever is relevant. And you will have to be, supposing they ask you what is the procedure under 143.12 fraud, nahin. So वहाँ पर you can't cut short. You will have to write what is the procedure. But when it's a case study based question, ethics based question, so you need to cut short and only the relevant stuff. And your answer, like throughout the day, what I've reiterated is it should be complete in all aspects. Complete मतलब length में नहीं. Complete मतलब provisions interlink करके complete. Clear? Anyone has any doubts, duvida, dard, shanka, pida? So now you all can shoot your questions to me one by unmuting. Uske pehle I'll just like to have Mayur on board in case he has anything to say or anything for you all. Tab tak you will get like 2-5 minutes to frame your questions also or doubts also. Then you all can bombard me with your questions. So Mayur, the stage is all yours now.
So first of all, thank you so much, sir, for another session, which I'm pretty sure that everybody loved. I can eventually see that everybody had good amount of questions and got a good clarity on their audit related stuff. All the students, I have a question. If you have any questions, kindly ask it to Ankit sir now, because this is the last phase of our webinar. After this, we'll have to say goodbye to Ankit sir, and we'll be ending this webinar so that you all can go study, and those who want, they can have their lunch or breakfast and watch today's India New Zealand final. Anyone has any questions?
You can just unmute your mic and just shoot your question.
Yes.
So type करने बैठोगे, that will take more time.
Yes.
साक्षी
सर
अच्छा join.
सर मुझे ये क्वेश्चन था कि अभी सिर्फ 50 डेज बचे हैं एग्जाम के लिए, तो व्हाट अप्रोच क्या होना चाहिए ऑडिट के रिगार्डिंग, कि कैसे रिवाइज करना है, हाउ मच टाइम, या फिर कितना रोज पढ़ना है, कैसे करना है, वो मुझे थोड़ा सा।
See, since audit theory subject is always better to study it on a daily basis. थोड़ा थोड़ा हर रोज करोगे तो at least your brain will remember the theory subject that is going on. Don't do it say like 5 hours or 6 hours a day, but at least do it 1 to 2 hours a day. Reason being, theory है, you will end up forgetting things. अगर तुमने एक साथ कंप्लीट कर दिया और फिर तुम एंड में वापस जाओगे, you will feel like, oh, this is new, I don't remember anything. Because till the exam आपने दूसरे सब्जेक्ट भी किए होंगे, like an FR, like an AFM, like if you are giving both groups, so DT, IDT भी किया होगा. You will eventually get confused in retention. So on a daily basis, at least put in like 1-2 hours. If I'm not wrong, अभी 52 days है, last के 5 दिन तो FR के लिए दोगे. So on an average, you have 45 days. Even if you do 2 hours of audit daily, when I say 2 hours, it is effective 2 hours. ऐसा नहीं कि बुक खोल के खाली 2 घंटा बैठ गए, फिर उसको खाली हमको नींद आती है, तो हमको नींद नहीं निकालनी है. We have to have effective retention of 2 hours. You will have 90 hours over a period of 45 days where you would have retained audit. And I think 90 hours is more than enough to finish a subject like audit. एक दिन में अगर continuously बैठते 10 hours, तो भी 9 दिन लगा ही लेते, तो उससे better let's spread it across 2 hours for each day. It's easy to do it in 90 days, and उसमें तुम्हारा revision भी हो जाएगा. And when you're studying it simultaneously, mark certain things which you think नहीं ये interlinking वाला है, ये इधर आ सकता है, like a sticky note or something next to the answer or next to the standard. You can just make like a sticky note कि ये standard के साथ ये चीजें आ सकती है साथ में. Like a fraud 240 के साथ you have your going concern, you have 705, you have professional ethics, you have caro reporting, you have 315, 330 भी आ सकता है. तो ये सब in standard इसके साथ आ सकते हैं. So the brain is also in a revision state also. कि भाई जब लास्ट का 1 day 1.5 day होगा पढ़ने का, तब तुम खाली अगर वो स्टिकी नोट्स भी अपनी पढ़ लोगे, फिर एटलीस्ट नो कि नहीं इसके साथ ये आता है. एंड यस, फॉर टेक्निकल सब चैप्टर्स लाइक ऑडिट ऑफ एनबीएफसी, ऑडिट ऑफ पीएसयूज, ऑडिट ऑफ बैंक, उसमें तो वील हैव टू लर्न. देयर इज नो ऑप्शन वेयर वील बी लाइक कि नहीं ये ऊपर ऊपर से देख ले. वहां पर वो टेक्निकल आंसर है, तो देयर वील हैव टू लर्न. उसमें देयर इज नो कैच.
ओके सर, थैंक यू.
No problem. Vedai also, I think, has some doubt. She has raised her hand. Oh, Vedai does not have doubt. There is a doubt by Aman how to prepare for IBS audit part and where to read all provisions of audit. That is paper 3. तुमको audit का ही पूरा करना है. But the only good part is since it is IBS, then you just need to collect your notes properly for everything. तुमको ओपन बुक टेस्ट है, तो तुमको साथ तुम्हारे बराबर होना चाहिए, एथिक्स बराबर होना चाहिए, कॉमन चैप्टर्स बराबर होने चाहिए. When I say common chapters, it is all this banking, PSUs, NBFCs, all of that. So all those need to be collated properly, and you need to just go through it once, like a 2-day thing, to just go through the book that you will carry for your IBS for audit. ताकि क्या होगा, तुमको पता तो चलेगा कि ये बुक में किधर क्या है. If you are only a group 2 student, if you are a group 1 plus group 2 दोनों दे रहे हो same attempt में, then whatever you are studying for your audit in group 1 right now is the same that you'll carry for your group. There is no extra study material or anything that you have to do. Clear, Aman? You have passed group 1. In which attempt did you clear? Last attempt या उसके पहले वाला attempt? Like November 24 या उसके पहले ही November 23. It's still the same. तुमको खाली एक नई चीज आएगी, which is your SAE, SRS, SRE, which I think was not there in November 23 attempt, because at that time there were all these other chapters of company audit which were predominant. Now you have less of company audit and more of standard. So you will have to pick up your SACA book of your first November 23 attempt. ICI के portal पे they do one thing in the RTPs, they state if there have been any amendment. तो May 24 और November 24 and May 25 ये 3 RTPs आपको डाउनलोड करनी है एंड चेक करना है whether any amendment in the old chapters has been specified by ICAI. अगर है तो वो खाली incorporate करने, अगर नहीं है तो then your November 23 note for the old topics are anyways there. You only have to download SAE, SRS and SREs, and you will have to take, you have new books, so then it's like the best thing, then there is no stress. But the only new thing that you'll have to know and study for like 1-2 days is SAE, SRS and SRE. पुरानी चीजें तो तुमने वैसे भी पढ़ी हुई है. You will at least have it somewhere in your unconscious mind, back of your mind कि भाई ये किधर तो देखा हुआ है. You can put 2-3 days to see your audit part of the syllabus and then go for your IBS exam. It's not going to be much of a problem. Just don't forget, for all students, don't forget to do the case scenario booklet which ICI has put in on the website. Case scenario digest उन्होंने 1 या 2 हफ्ते पहले डाला है on the ICI website for each subject, FR, AFM, audit, DT, IDT. Audit अभी भी पूरा याद है तो स्ट्रेस क्यों है? खाली SRS, SAEs और SREs भी तो लर्न करना है. लर्न भी नहीं करना है, eventually you just have to see कि किसमें क्या है. That. So just go with an open mind and you will still be able to find. IBS I know open book है तो तुम confuse हो जाओगे कि कौन सी book खोलनी है. But that is what happens with every student. No tension ना लो. That is why take the 2-3 days time to go through your audit book. Similarly तुमको फिर AFM और FR भी देखना ही पड़ेगा एक बार खोल के, because IBS में वो भी आएगा ही. That is the same approach that you'll have to apply, be it audit, AFM or FR for your group 1. Clear? और किसी को कोई डाउट, दुविधा, दर्द, शंका, पीड़ा, सबको मैच देखने जाना है. Vedai has raised her hand, but I'm not sure if she's there or she's left the meeting. Anyone with any more doubts?
I think throughout the session, all the doubts were cleared. So I think again, a wonderful session, very insightful from you. Now it's time to say thank you to all the students and to you. Thank you so much for this session. I believe a lot of students have got a lot of insights. Sir, DT strategy बता दीजिए कुछ if possible.
तुम एक ओशन की स्ट्रैटेजी मांग रहे हो मुझसे, जो कभी ओशन में से पानी खत्म ही नहीं होता. बट if I have to just randomly tell you as a small strategy, I'll just write down the chapters which you cannot afford to ignore. ये चीज तुमको करके जानी है, बिकॉज इंटरनेशनल टैक्सेशन इटसेल्फ इज 30 मार्क्स. पीजीबीपी या डिडक्शंस के ऊपर एक सम आना ही आना है इन क्वेश्चन नंबर 1, विच इज अगेन अ 14 मार्कर. कैपिटल गेन्स के ऊपर एक क्वेश्चन कहीं ना कहीं आ जाएगा, विच विल बी लाइक अ 4 to 5 मार्कर. तो 30, 14, 4 to 5. टीडीएस एंड एडवांस टैक्स के क्वेश्चन के बगैर पेपर नहीं बनता. प्लस 4 to 5 मार्क्स. So I'm giving you 30, 40, 54 marks का रफ कि this is something which you can't afford to not do. ये तुमको करना ही पड़ेगा. उसके अलावा you have your छोटा छोटा chapters like your GAR, then you have your agricultural income, जो हम कभी करते नहीं है. इसके अंदर कॉफी बीन रोस्टिंग के ऊपर, if it is roasted coffee, it is normal coffee. If it is roasted tea, ऐसा कुछ भी है, 50%, 40%. Then you have your deduction accordingly, 60% will be exempt, 40% is charged, XYZ. I might not remember the exact section right now, but this is something that is there in that chapter. तुमको वो करना पड़ेगा. And your May attempt, तो जो भी amendments आई है, that is implied, you will have to do it. Plus, you will have to do one chapter of tax rates or math or AMT. क्यों? क्योंकि when it's a question on PGBP, they might ideally ask you what is the tax liability, and when it is tax liability, You have to even do the normal computation as per income tax, and you have to do the computation under 115JB of the income tax and compare wherever your tax liability is lower. उसके लिए तुमको टैक्स रेट्स का चैप्टर आना जरूरी है, क्योंकि कोई केसेस में मैट अप्लाई नहीं होता. If I'm a case of 115 BAA, then MAT does not apply to me. So accordingly, I need to remember all the specific rates, PGBP, IFOS to do this particular examination. But itna is bare minimum which you will have to go and समझा. Plus MCQs में वो राम भरोसे, that you don't know, because tax is such a big mammoth subject. I can ask you an MCQ on anything and everything. So there will be either an interlinked provision of international tax with normal TDS. There might be a PGBP question which might get linked with capital gains, which might get linked with specific taxes under IFOS, gift taxation, 222 dividends, 222 A, B, C, D, E, which might also come into question. ऐसा छोटा छोटा बहुत कुछ है. And I have missed out on one chapter, which is your assessment procedure. जहाँ पर you have your normal assessment, you have your best judgment assessment, you have your income escaping assessment, and you have your search and seizures. समझा कि नहीं समझा? This also normally might come in MCQs or might come as a 1-4 marker question. तो 4 से 5 मार्क तो ये चैप्टर से भी आना है. You need to remember the due date, whether it is within 12 months from the end of the financial year, or it is 12 months from the date of filing of return, or whether it is 12 months from the end of the assessment year relevant to the financial year to which the return is filed. ऐसा कुछ पढ़ा लग रहा है? I think yes. मुझे शक्ल पे 12 बजे हुए तो लग रहे. 12/9 को शक्ल पे 12 बजे अमन के. बट ऐसा कुछ है, ऐसा थोड़ा छोटा मोटा बहुत कुछ. But this is the bare minimum that you'll have to still do. लगता है even मयूर is doing tax, वो भी लिख रहा है कि तुझे क्या क्या करना है टैक्स.
I thought कि next DT webinar होने वाला है, but we started it here only, so just making my notes for that.
I was like कि तुमको भी टैक्स पढ़ना है, अभी एग्जाम देनी है तुमको?
नहीं अभी तो नहीं. इस बार अमन बानू जो लोग अभी फिलहाल बचे इनको क्लियर करा लेते हैं.
हाँ, अपन नेक्स्ट टाइम देखेंगे.
Yes. So thank you so much, sir. I hope everybody, you all got your answers, and thanks to you, Ankit sir. I always say this, हमने कुछ अच्छे कर्म किए थे, that we got you as a mentor who can help all our CA students transform their CA journey. So thank you so much for everything you do for all our students, helping us and them to make sure that they transform their CA education. So thank you so much, everyone. Take care, prepare well, and we'll see you in the next webinar very soon.
चलो, bye, thank you, and all the best for your examination, guys.
Thank you, sir.